right, and with that said, I think we can go ahead and get started, make sure we stay on time here. So hello everyone, my name is Olivia. I work on the Spectora marketing team. If you've joined our webinars, you've probably seen me before. If not, I'm so happy to be here with you today. And today I'm very excited for the webinar. We are going to give you Mastering Spectora, Report Writing Masterclass. As you all know, since you're here, that is the bread and butter of what we do. So we definitely want to make sure everyone here is using our app as well as possible. So let's get into what we're covering today. I am going to talk a little bit about why specifically we're giving this webinar. Again, I'll point you all, if you haven't downloaded the V10 app, to instructions to do so. And then I'll get into introducing you to your experts who we have with us today. We do have an inspector guest today, which will be wonderful. So James Hooper is going to walk you through his tips, and then Megan, who's one of our product managers here at Spectora, is going to walk you through her tips and tricks. And then all of the great updates we have to share with you today as well. Last but not least, we're going to end with a Q&A. We're going to try to leave at least 15 and 20 minutes. So if you all are here, you should be able to see a Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can ask any questions in there, and we will get to them at the end of the webinar in our Q&A time. If for any reason anyone's having technical difficulties, or if you need to ask us something during the webinar, that chat box should also be available, so feel free to write in there. With that said, let's jump into it. So why today's webinar? I do want to say this has been the most requested Spectora webinar ever when I've engaged with our community and asked you all what you wanted to hear from Spectora, report writing tips and tricks, and just everything about the product, product updates are what you all seem to be wanting to hear from us a lot of the time. So we're very happy to deliver and be able to put this together with you. And then from our motivations, Spectora, when we first built this product and still today, one of our biggest motivations is just how can we save inspectors time? How can we ensure that they are really able to do their inspections efficiently and effectively and have time that's really important to get back to spending time in other areas of their business, to spending time with their families, to their hobbies. So we really want to make sure that every one of our users can use our report writing tools to the best of their capabilities. Last but not least, we absolutely also want to ensure you don't miss important product updates, and we want to give you the chance to ask questions live with us and engage with the people behind the product. So that's a big part of what today is as well. And we'll get into exactly what those look like later. But yeah, that's a little bit about why this webinar. Some of you may have come to our last report writing webinar. So I just wanted to highlight why we really feel like putting this on again is something that can be so useful to all of you. So before we jump into everything, I just want to say we will be showing the V10 mobile app and web editor in this webinar. If you haven't tried it out yet, or if you tried it out a while ago but don't have it downloaded for some reason, there's a link in the Zoom webinar chat to an article that will help you get started to download that both on iOS or Android. So what you can go ahead and do is click that link from your mobile phone and then follow the specific instructions for iOS and Android if you want to get started with that. All right, so now it is time. I want to go ahead and introduce you to the wonderful people who will be guiding you through today's webinar. So first and foremost, we have Megan. She is a Spectora product manager. She leads the developers who work on the app and the web editor, and she's also had a lot of time at Spectora under her belt. Megan, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself real quick?
Hey y'all, I'm Megan. Like Olivia said, I'm one of the product managers at Spectora. I specifically work with the core pod, as we call it, which is the scheduling software, the mobile app, the templates, everything kind of in that report writing sphere. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Megan. Next, for our Q&A portion, we actually have Alex. Alex is a software engineer on Spectora's engineering team, and he primarily works on the web editor. One of his big products lately has been working to ensure that the quality matches that of our mobile app. We will have updates later, but yeah, just want to shout out Alex will be here for the Q&A. It's actually the first time we've had an engineer on one of our webinars, so this is exciting for us. Alex, do you want to say hi quickly?
Hey there, thank you, Olivia. Yeah, thank you so much for the invite. It's gonna be a pleasure to be here and answer to all of you guys' questions and share a bit about what we have upcoming for the web editor. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. Great. And then last but certainly not least, we have James Hooper here with us. He is the owner and inspector at Bridgetown Inspections out of Oregon. He's been a Spectora user for years and is a true expert. We were just talking, he's been with Spectora since 2019, so has truly seen it all. James, do you want to just say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to be on. And, whether you're new to inspections or new to Spectora, we hope that this is benefit to you. So thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. So we're just going to jump into it. James has some wonderful tips he's going to be able to share about how you can get more efficient with your inspecting. So James, the first thing we talked about that you're going to share is the value of like pre-arranging comments in your template before you actually get on site in the inspection. So are you ready for me to play the video and we can talk through that?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and hit play. So one of the things that I've done since the beginning is pre-arranging comments. So if you go up to your menu and hit templates, so and then you scroll to the right, you'll see the 3 bars. Scroll down to template tools, and then you'll see 3 different choices. Alphabetize all comments. I like the sort defect comment by the most used. And once you click that, all you have to do is click reorder comments. And so that video you can stop that video. But one of the things that's helpful about that is as you are going through the inspections and whatever you might see, that is the most common thing. So for me, let's just talk about the anti-tip bracket for the oven, right? So that is seen on almost every single inspection. And so when I go to that comment, it's right there. It's the first one that you see. So that would be half of tip number 1. Tip number 2 down those lines is tagging things that is or pre-checking things, if you will, ahead of time. So in this is my report. So you click any category. For this is maintenance tips. Go to exterior trim upkeep, click it, hit default to check, and that will automatically be checked on every single report as you are during your inspections. And one of the things I've just done recently is if you go to the your report and there is something that you see all the time or that you have. For us here in Portland, the way that our foundations are, we have wood posts and we have concrete walls, right? And so there's some more to that, and this needs to be cleaned up, so don't judge it harshly. But I went to floor structure support type, clicked wood posts, concrete walls, because that's on every single inspection, and that does save it. That does save a huge. That's a huge tip because it saves so much time. And you think it only 5, 10, 15 seconds, but after a while, those 15, 20 seconds turns into 5 minutes or 10 minutes of just going around searching for things on the report. And then tip number 2 would be flagging items. So on the report, you'll see there's a, for example, laundry is flagged. Something that I saw the other day was visible plumbing. So you just go to, can you pause that video for 1 second?
Absolutely. There we go.
Perfect. So it looks like there's supposed to be one with a showing on my app. But one of the things that, unless that's the next slide, but one of the things as you're going through your inspection, sometimes you will see something that you just have not seen before, and you have no idea what to even write on it. And so I came into this situation a couple of weeks ago. I was in the laundry room. This was new construction. So on the app, so this is the web editor, but on the app, you can flag an item and it'll show up on the web like this. So what I typically do is I'll flag specific things that either I want to address later, and I will address it either in my truck in between inspections or when I get home. And I do try to finish the inspection on site, but a lot of times I'll spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes just fixing the flags. So here in the web editor, I saw something. So we'll push play here again. Oops, looks like you, yep.
Here we go.
So
Start it over from.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be awesome. All right, here we go.
So I flagged it. So it's highlighted right there in orange. And then all I have to do is click it. And then it's right there. So you'll see what it is there in a second. So I'm going to click this. It's just where I decided to put it at this moment. There it is, stupid foam. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. I think it'll show you a picture of it because I didn't even know what to write. So at this point, I'm actually going to figure out what I want to title it. During the inspection, I put stupid foam. That's all because I wanted to come back to it later. I'm definitely not going to give that to my clients. And, you know, you can put whatever you want in there. Ugly foam, I'm just kidding you, but you can actually put the correct title, whatever you want to title it. And then once you do that, you can go and fill out the description and point to the picture, and this video will play kind of showing you how to do that. So, and then once you do fix it the way that you want it, all you would have to do is go to the flag, and that flag will disappear, and then that thing is fixed. It takes you 15 seconds because now you are more, you know, thoughtful in what you want to put. One of the things you don't want to do is take so much time doing the inspection, trying to figure out what you are going to write. You know, you want to be able to be efficient as possible, and this allows you to do that.
Wonderful. I think that's an absolutely excellent tip, James, and I appreciate you sharing that. Do you want to just say to everyone watching, we will send out the slide deck to all attendees after. So if you want to watch any of this back and see the awesome videos James has made and some of the ones Megan will show later, you'll have the opportunity to do that. But I really love what you've touched on with these 3 tips so far, because it's just so important. Like, as you said, exactly, these build up over time. So even though you're like, okay, how does this save me time? This is how our platform was built to help you all save time as you go through your inspections, every single comment, every single defect for every single inspection, and that builds up.
Yeah.
So you had one more that we talked about when we were preparing for this. You told me that sometimes what you like to do is do your on-site reporting offline and then sync after the inspection. Can you share a little bit about why that helps you and why you like doing that to save a bit of time?
One of the things I've done since day one, maybe it's because I use an iPad for my inspections, and it's a Wi-Fi version, so it's not a cell phone cell service. And what I do is I in the morning time in my office, what I'll do is I'll just download the reports. It takes 5 seconds, and then those reports are downloaded, and then I go ahead and go into my inspections just offline, and I'm not dealing with battery issues. I'm not dealing with connection issues because it's all done just on the device itself. And then once after the inspection, I'll use my hotspot on my phone and I'll just sync anything or go to a coffee shop or a pub or something and then download everything. And I have to say, I hear a lot of comments on, you know, Facebook or whatever with it have issues and doesn't quite work and all this stuff. I've had a little bit, a few hiccups, but nothing. It's more my device than anything else. But I've had no issues with Spectora while on site, and it's because of that. And you know, it doesn't matter what you have as far as battery issues. You can be on TikTok or Facebook all day long, and that's going to eat up your battery. Same thing goes with any kind of app. So this has saved me a lot. And if you've been having issues, just try this for a while, and I promise you, you won't have any issues. So.
Yeah, that's a great one, James. And I do just want to reiterate, especially if you have an older device or if you're doing inspections, something I've heard from a lot of our inspectors, if you're doing inspections in more rural areas where you don't have great reception, and I'm going to sound so non-technical when I say this, but essentially your app is literally just working harder because you have less service or no Wi-Fi. This is going to be a huge saver for you. I think we are, or at least in our last webinar, talked about auto sync on V10, which is great. But if you're having issues and you don't have a brand new device, this is likely going to cause you to just have a smoother inspection process. So I really thank James for bringing that up because that can be a real lifesaver for some of our inspectors. With that said, we have a couple additional report writing tips and best practices that James wanted to share and talk through. So something we talked about when we were prepping is why you take photos and put them in your report in landscape mode. So do you want to share a little bit about that, please?
Plain and simple, it just looks better. I mean, I've tried it both ways. One of the things that you want to do is make sure that whatever photo, whether it's landscape or portrait, so portrait is straight up, landscape is long ways. One of the things you always want to do is keep it the same. So you don't want to do, for example, this is what it looks like on my report in landscape mode. And granted, it's zoomed in, so it's not that big. But this is all in landscape mode. And what you don't want to do is have one in portrait, one in landscape, one in portrait. You want it to be consistent. Another thing, reason why I use landscape, it just looks better overall. It fills up each page, and if you just compare the two. And I should have done a comparison on this one, but it just makes the report polished and looks better in landscape mode.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it does look really nice there. And then I think the last thing we wanted to talk about, which to me, James, is like one of the most important things you'll share here today, is why efficient reporting doesn't equal rushed reporting. So when you shared your thoughts with this on me like the other day, it's so obvious, but it also kind of blew my mind. So can you talk through that a little bit?
We often talk about getting through the inspection and being as quick as we can with the report. I think it's important not to confuse being efficient versus being rushed. One of the things that I've learned a while back is your clients are paying, a good amount for this home inspection. They don't know what you are working with, right? To them, they see you at the house working. And I can probably do a whole house in an hour and a half because of the time that I've spent writing my report and being efficient with my report. But just because I'm done with my report or done writing things in an hour and a half doesn't mean that my inspection is over, because I want to give the impression to the client of like, hey, look, you spent a lot of money. My average inspection price is probably about $750 to $950 is my typical price. They're paying, that's several $100s. And I don't want to just be one and done and then leave. I want to be able to be efficient with my inspection and spend more time talking with them. And heck, if you get done early, walk around the house. I used to manage a store, and I told one person, I said, hey, why don't you sweep this area? And he said, well, I've already swept it. I know that, but the manager who's walking by doesn't know that. And so once you get done with the inspection with the report, to thank you, Spectora, for that, inspect things further, do more due diligence on that one. So there's a big difference between being efficient and then rushing and being quick.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you for sharing that, because it's so important. And I think that very much goes in line with why we want, like at Spectora, to enable our inspectors to be efficient. Yes, part of it is that maybe you can fit another inspection in your day, but most of it is so that you can actually spend, your time with the client, spend as much time in the home as you need, spend more time on client care, spend more time being thorough. And so I just love that you touched on it, and I appreciate it. With that said, thank you so much, James, for all your tips. Everyone watching, I see we have a lot of questions coming in the Q&A tab. We will answer those at the end, and James will also be available at the end to take questions, so don't worry about that. We will get there. I do want to say something else if you missed it or if you want more tips. We did do a recent webinar also about report writing. We had an inspector guest, Chris Cochran, who shared amazing tips like to save time and how he publishes inspections on site. So I will send that out when I send out the recording, so you all can watch both of those. But Megan, do you want to talk a little bit about how this webinar that we're giving might be different for anyone who attended this, and just touch on that before I pass it over to you?
Yeah, of course. So for the last webinar, obviously, first we had a different inspector sharing their tips, and Chris went through a bunch of his specific things. I think for inspectors, a lot of efficiency is just figuring out what works best for you, what's going to make you most efficient on site, what format works best. And so Chris went through that. And then for my side, I went through a lot more of the basics on this one. So I'll be hitting some of the same things, but things like the differences between the cameras and which ones you should use, syncing, global search, different modes like flagging, like we talked about. So it's going to be more to those back to basics, which I think are hugely important to learn. So if you want to take a look at that, or if you have any questions on anything like that, like cameras, please feel free to reach out to our CS team. They have excellent resources that they can walk you through.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So yeah, we're going to jump into Megan's tips now. So yeah, Megan, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, of course. So I just want to start off with a disclaimer that I put in every one of these webinars, which is if you're a new inspector and you're struggling with time on site, don't get discouraged. Part of reporting is learning your flow, what works best for you, finding your right template, all that wonderful stuff. And so I would just recommend making sure you're taking time to really understand your needs as an inspector, figuring out if you want to report with components or room by room or whatever works best for you, and really digging into that template because that's going to ultimately speed you up more than anything else. But ultimately, I really want to give you the tips we can to help you move along. I will also say in this too, I'm going to be covering partially things that can help you on site, and then partially things that can help you if you're someone who doesn't publish on site and you want to edit your report at home, just tips that can speed that along.
Absolutely wonderful. And I think, Megan, you touched on something that's so important that I do just want to highlight is that you might leave this webinar and not every single one of these tips are going to work for you. That's why we keep putting them on and trying to share as much knowledge as we can, because it is just about finding your best process.
All right, perfect. So this is one of the things I wanted to hit on today, which is auto sync. So James talked about working offline, which I think can be wonderful, especially if battery life is a concern for you. But if you're someone who has a device that's, let's say, more modern or you're generally in good service, it can be a really great way to save you time after the inspection because by the time you're done, everything's synced. That means that your web editor and your web report are completely done, so you can even review those on site with the client, which can be very lovely. And it's also really great for these two scenarios I wrote out here. So the first one is team inspections. If you're someone who has more than one inspector with you or works in pairs, this can be a really wonderful way to basically see what everyone's working on. Communicating on team inspections on what everyone's working on and breaking out components can be difficult. And so this can be a really good way to see exactly what people are doing. Your data just in meshes, so you can see those update live and you know exactly what your other teammates doing. This can also be really helpful if you want to hire, so training. Basically, when you're training inspectors, sometimes it can be hard to trust them or figure out exactly what they're doing. And auto-sync is great because if you're on site or in the office, if they have service and they're auto-syncing, you can see what they're doing live. So you can watch them check comments, add photos, basically just see as they're navigating through the app and make sure they're doing the things that best represent your business and your company. So very excited to be able to share that one. And again, that's on V10. This one is, again, more of a feature, but it is something I want to highlight as well, which is just the reduction of scrolling and something we've added to help with that. So this one is checking defects and having those float to the top. So a lot of times if you report by component or you're moving through, you'll have the same defect that might show up in multiple rooms. So for example, if you go through in one room, you check on a defect and then you add information like it's happening in the second bedroom, and then you go back and you realize the same issue is happening in the kitchen or something like that. When you go back, the defect you checked is going to float to the top of the list so you can easily edit that and add more to it. Again, we've heard that's a really great way just to save time, and this does also apply when you're editing on the web editor as well as in the mobile app, so you can see those once you get home as well. All right, so this one here is a little bit more of a workaround. It is something ultimately you want to build in, but for right now, it's something that I've heard inspectors doing on site as a way to really help, especially when you have a house that's just really struggling and has a lot of different damage going on. So as you know, or as maybe you don't know, in informational, when you add an informational comment or info at the house, you can have a bunch of different formats like signatures, date ranges, all these different things. But for defects, up to this point, we only have a single checkbox where you can say this defect is present or it's not present. One thing I've had inspectors do, and I've seen them do, is basically go in and create an informational comment in the template and then drag it into findings. And what you could do with this is you can basically say like, hey, on the roof, maybe you go in, you can see that they have hail damage, they have ponding, they have leaks, they have all this stuff, cracked shingles, whatever that looks like. You can check on all of those and have it pop up. So it's gonna be a really good way if you have a house where you're trying to narrow down the list to something that's more consumable by the client and basically make that much more visible. Right now, there is one caveat, which is that when you check on those answers, it wouldn't change the description. So you'd have to type in those descriptions. So long-term, that's something that we would want to do, but I do still think it can be a wonderful thing. And it's something you can do too in the web editor if you have to add something in the middle of reporting. But this is just something I've seen inspectors do that I think is really cool. All right, so this is one of those things about editing at home that I think can be very powerful, which not everyone knows about. So when you get home and you're viewing your report or making edits, a lot of people go to the web editor, which again can be an excellent tool, but sometimes you just want to see exactly what you have on the report, how it's showing to the client, and if you need to make any changes. For this, what I recommend is going into the preview for the report, and you can hover over different parts of the report, like you can see me doing here, and you can make edits to the text, to the multiple choice comments, to basically a lot of the different inspections, and make sure that that everything there is reflecting what you need it to. It also saves you time of navigating the web editor, finding which comments are filled, finding which comments are not filled. All of that great stuff can be really good just to finish up. So I'd really recommend, if you have not tried editing from the preview, try that out as a way to speed things up at home. I think that also people who publish on site, that's awesome. Ultimately, Spectora wants to save you as much time as possible and keep you from spending time at home writing reports. But if you're someone who just needs that extra safety of just making sure everything at home is looking exactly how you want it to, this is a really good tool for it. All right, so this is something that's part of our new web editor that is currently in beta. We're really excited about it. We've already gotten some great feedback that something is huge for some. They said, this is huge for me. So I'm really excited to have this out. And this is what Alex has primarily been working on. So this one is specifically talking about a new way to reorder comments. We've heard that there's a lot of, it's just like a big pain to reorder comments once you get back, because on the old web editor, what you'd have to do is basically drag it comment by comment by comment. You have to drag it maybe 10 times to get it in the right order. What we've built is basically a way that you can go through and reorder comments just easily. You can see me doing this right in there. And you can even drag between categories like I talked about, but basically it's a really nice way to be able to navigate this. And again, we'll go more into the new web editor later, but you can see that refreshed UX in the background. All right, this is another thing on the V10 web editor, which is something we built after seeing pain from inspectors. Basically, on the previous web editor, what happened is if someone had a photo that needed to be moved between comments, what they have to do is they have to go to the web editor, right-click it, save it to desktop, go to the new comment, upload it, add it to the new comment, then go back and delete it. We know it's a huge pain, so it's something that we wanted to fix. So with this one, you can go through and you can hover over them, click edit photo, and then, or move photo, and then you can have that just pop up so you can move it anywhere in the report. We do ultimately plan to make this also a mass movement. So let's say you need to move 3 photos. We want to be able to allow you to do that once. Right now it is 1 by 1, but I still think it's a huge step forward from what we had in that past web editor.
Wonderful. So Megan, you already shared some awesome previews of what you and your team have been working on, which is absolutely wonderful. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into some product updates, shine some light on what you and the team are doing to really focus on the report writing experience. I do also just want to point out before we jump into this, like, got a lot of questions going into this about, should I be writing my reports on the web editor? Should I be writing my reports on the mobile phone? Spectora is built to be a mobile first platform, but one of the reasons we are working on the web editor is we really want the quality to match, because we know you all do use it. A lot of people do prefer to look over all of their report when they have the time to like sit down and truly QA it. So just want to say that, but yeah, let's jump in. So excited to share with you all.
Yeah, of course. So the first thing I want to highlight is a little bit more detail on the web editor that's now in beta. If anyone here is interested, please reach out to our CS team and we can get that enabled for you. We're really excited to get more people in it. And it just launched yesterday. So again, we're very excited to have more people. So the main goal of the web editor, and it wasn't just to add the new UX, it was to optimize it. We know, especially with big reports, team inspections, multi-unit inspections, it was lagging and not performing the way we wanted it to. So the biggest reason we did this was just that optimization to make sure it's keeping up with you and really making sure that you're able to navigate it easily. We also did want to refresh the user experience. We knew that it was a little bit clunky and it didn't feel as modern as we wanted it to. And so we had our product designer go through and basically do a V1 of the web editor. It's not done, but it is something that I think is going to be a huge step forward for so many inspectors in terms of how it navigates. We have things like tabbed comments. So you can tab between information, defects, limitations, instead of having to scroll through all of them to reach something like your defects. We have the new comment reorder. We have a full screen mode, which you can see it's in the top right corner of that screenshot I took, the little expand button, where you can make it your entire screen so you have more real estate to actually edit your report. Long term, we do want to make more changes to it as well. Things like improving the search so you can have the same searching capabilities on the web as you do in the app, and making it easier to edit comments, add photos, all that wonderful stuff. Right now, we're just really looking to have a usable, modern, exciting experience that people can have that matches the app for when you're finishing up those reports at home.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, do you want to touch on mobile updates as well quickly, as that is, such a part of our platform?
Yeah, of course. So mobile updates are obviously one of our biggest focuses. This is something that my pod is heads down on. So essentially what we've been working on is a series of larger, I guess would be migrations or releases to help increase the app's reliability and speed. So we just released the last version of that to alpha. And so basically we have that out to iOS testers, planning to Android later today. But it's something that's going to really help your app just function a little bit better and put less pressure on your application and put less pressure on your device from your app. We're really excited about it. We've gotten great feedback. We heard that it's taking up about nine times less basically like processing power on Android and half the processing power on iOS. So we're really excited to get that out there. So if you're someone who's had any issues with it, please let me know. We're happy to have you join that alpha testing group and get you in there. From there, we're really excited to be able to refocus in on things like bugs and other key experiences like cameras and photo annotating. We have a new mobile developer, which I'll get into in a second, but he's going through a bunch of bug fixes. You're going to see a ton of releases come out through that. And basically, we're just going to be moving through the different key experiences to make sure that the mobile app is going to really be that next generation. We're very excited about what we've been doing and where we're going with it. So I want to give you all a little bit of an update on what that looks like.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Megan. And before we move on, I just do want to quickly say that everyone I've seen a couple people in the chat say they have to leave early. If you can't make the end of this, we will record it and send it out. So don't worry if you have to run. You can still have access to the end of the webinar. With that said, Megan, do you want to share where people can get a bit more details about everything you just shared?
Yeah, of course. So for the web editor, it's going to be in the slide deck. We have a whole video walking through all the changes. And then we're going to be publishing an article soon, which we can send out as well, basically walking through what the difference is. But I'd say the best way to understand more about the web editor is getting into that beta. So again, let us know if you're interested. If it's something you want to do, we can get that out to you. So appreciate anything. And this is the V10 web editor only. As a heads up for anyone, I realize I didn't clarify that more clearly.
Yeah, wonderful. And anyone who wants to get added, you can just write that into our chat bubble. Let them know you want to join the V10 web editor beta, and that'll get you in there. Great. So the last thing we want to touch on before we get to Q&A is just meet our growing team, like show you the faces who are working on this. So Megan, do you want to talk a little bit just about the growth of the report writing team here at Spectora?
Yeah, of course. So we've had a really wonderful time just growing our team. We've added multiple new developers this year, including, honestly, so many people you see on that screen, and I've really loved working with every single one of them. Mateus is our new our new mobile developer, and he just started this week. Very thrilled to have him on the team. And this team is a group of people who are heads down working on the V10 experience. We've been very careful in navigating it, trying to dig in, making sure that we have so much more research, reliability, all that great stuff. And I've just been thrilled to be able to work with this team of very talented developers. So this is our largest, it's Spectora, we call it pods of different people who are working together to solve different software problems and make the best experience. And so the core pod is what we call this one, like I mentioned, and it's by far our largest pod, meaning we're really pouring into that core experience and making sure that we're digging in and making it a wonderful experience across the board.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Megan. Last thing I want to shout out. So if you haven't yet, you can go ahead and join Spectora HQ. In the Growth Hub is where we will have all of the recordings. So you can access that just from our website. I put the URLs up here. Again, we'll share this slide deck, so you don't have to worry about writing that down right now. But if you want to join, you can just visit hq.spectora.com, and you can log in with your Spectora details. That's where we will post all of our webinar recordings, but we will also definitely send this out to anyone who signed up. So either that or your email. With that said, let's get into questions. Before I go into the Q&A tab, I'm seeing a ton of people writing into the chat here saying they want to try the Beta V10 web editor. That said, I should have been so much more clear. Can you all please write into our customer support team, so the chat bubble from your Spectora app? We can try and make sure we can get as many of you written down here, but we don't want to forget you or just make sure that you're added the right way. So please write into our customer support, everyone who just wrote in that they would like to join the V10 web editor. With that said, let's go ahead. I am going to pull up our Q&A. And oh wow, it looks like we have a lot, so let's get to it. We'll try to answer all of these. We probably won't get to every single one of them. So if we don't answer your question, just feel free to write that again into our customer support, or you can always email me. I always offer up my email, olivia@spectora.com, if we don't get to your question. So with that said, let's see, I see one from Brian. We use reorder by most commonly used at our company. It's super helpful. Does it dynamically update for each inspector? As you may have more unused comments more often, will that comment automatically move up the list, or do I need to periodically reorder comments?
So right now, that only happens when you click that button, so it's not dynamic, but we're always looking to iterate on past features, make things better. So if that's something that you think would be helpful for us, we can absolutely get that into our request board. And again, as we move through it, we're always looking for ways to save time. I think dynamically adjusting that could be awesome. So yeah, right now the answer is no, but in the future, maybe.
Wonderful. Thanks, Megan. I will say here, I saw Anonymous Attendee said I switched from an Apple iPhone 14. Oh, upgraded their phone to the device and saying that it works better, just takes a little bit of time to sync after. That's awesome to hear. We're very glad to hear that. Wonderful. Let's see. Would you have sync problems if you started online and went to offline during an inspection? Is it better to start to finish offline if that's what you're going to do?
I can answer that. So there should not be any problems. You should be able to move in and out of being online and offline without having any sync problems. Basically, the app stores data either way. It just adds in a queue if it's not syncing, and then otherwise it just uploads. But you should have no problems doing that either way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Megan. Let's see. We have, I have a feeling this one might be for you, James. So I have Chris asking, I use a Wi-Fi with an iPad as well. How do you prevent the keyboard from popping up unintentionally when clicking defects? Is that something you've ever experienced, James?
It's not, maybe once or twice, but that has to be a setting in the iPad. I saw that question, so I was trying to play around with my iPad to try to make it do that. But that's not an app thing. I think it's more of an iPad issue. So I would go in settings and play around with that, because I don't think it has anything to do with the app. I could be wrong, but I have not ran into that issue.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering that, James. Let's see. From Mark, we have, I agree with landscape mode looking better. My issue is that the 2 to 3 second delay for my iPhone switch to landscape mode adds up incredibly over time over the course of an inspection. Is there a way to make landscape the default?
I don't quite understand the question. What I do is I just tilt the screen to take a picture. So there's no setting to make it landscape to, so when I'm going through the inspection, I use my phone for a sample, but if I use my iPad, but if I'm going like this and I'm going to take a picture, I just do it like this and take a picture. So, and there's no delay for me on that one.
Wonderful. Thank you. I see Roger here asking, how do I get the new app? Roger, if you go over to the chat, so not the Q&A box, but the chat box, and you scroll all the way to the top, I sent a link to how you can download, whether you're iOS and Android, get the V10 app in the beta. So go ahead and check out that link. If you're still having questions, feel free to write into our customer support. That said, I did see in the chat, I saw a question about why we are pushing V10. Megan, do you want to speak on that just a little bit? We probably should have said this at the beginning of our webinar for why we're excited about the V10 version of both the app and the web editor.
Yeah, of course. I think it's just because it's the latest and greatest and what we're spending our efforts on to make better. That's going to be something that we really think is going to improve your writing experience, make it better. And again, it's the future of Spectora and the future of what we're going to be using. It's obviously, we know a lot of people still use the legacy app. About 40% of inspections go through V10, 60% through legacy. So it is still a larger split, but we are seeing more and more people move there. And ultimately, I just think it's something that we'd love for you to try. So you're interested in, please let us know. We're happy to get you on that. And yeah, I'm happy to hear any feedback or any comments about it.
Thanks, Megan. All right, we have Morgan Cohen asking, do you have any tricks to remind yourself to uncheck any of the default comments, like for in your example, I assume this is for you, James, about the tile maintenance defect? If the showers are all fiberglass, how do you remind yourself to accidentally not have a comment about tile? I ask this because it is a big thing stopping me from adding default comments. I don't want to have comments in my report that are not applicable.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. It's something that I thought about. One of the ways that I work through my report, it's like a checklist, right? So when I'm in the bathroom, I'm looking at that stuff, and I know that it's checked. I'm going on it. I'm clicking it anyway. The difference is whether I go one more click to click the item or not. If it happens to be, for me, it was foundations, right? For me, say it was something different, I would just unclick those and do that. But more times than not, that's what I see. So I just leave it clicked. I have not ran into an issue yet where, someone calls me and says, hey, James, you clicked concrete walls and it's brick, but that's just double checking and going through the list systematically one by one. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, James. From Jody, I'm seeing you hit on cameras. What is the best camera to use for this program? I assume meaning Spectora.
Yeah, I can get into that. So basically, we have two different in-app cameras that we have. One of them is called the rapid fire camera. One is the single shot camera. They both have different benefits. The single shot camera is basically your phone's native camera. That's what we use. So it's not going to look exactly the same, but it has those same options and it's going to function the same. The only thing is that both iOS and Android limit us to be able to take one photo at once and load them. So you have to go through and check on each one. You also can use the rapid fire camera in-app, which is a camera application that we use, which is basically just a plugin where we go through and you can take multiple cameras. Sorry, I shouldn't say plugin. It's basically just an application that we use where you can go through and take multiple photos and load them. In V10, we do have some additional options, like you can change your aspect ratio, basically like the size and dimension of your camera, like or your photos, or make them like a square or something like that, and use additional lenses on your camera on iOS. But it does have a little bit more limited capabilities than your native camera. Some inspectors, what they'll do too is they'll go through and they'll just take it with their phone and then add from gallery. I think it's figure out whichever one works best for you. And yeah, I'd ultimately recommend just trying out all three of them, seeing what's going to be best for your workflow. And I think regardless of what you use, you should have a great time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Megan. Let's see what else I have. I do just want to say it looks like we have 47 unanswered questions. We might not get to all of these live. If there's anything important that we're not answering right now, please again write that into the chat bubble later so we can help you, or write that directly to us. I have one from Gail Flowers. I currently have two Spectora apps on my phone. One is soft blue with a white house outline and door and check mark. The other is a darker blue with the same design. Which one should I be using? Megan, you want to take this one?
Yeah, of course. So I would recommend using the V10 app, which is the dark blue one with the White House on it. So either one you can definitely use. Just make sure that whenever you're scheduling an inspection on the web, your inspection matches that. If you go into settings, report tools, you can see that there is a box that says default to V10. If you check that all of your inspections coming in from the online scheduler or internal are going to load in that V10 format, because they're completely different applications, completely different formats, you can't cross them. So just make sure that regardless of which app you're using, you're scheduling the right format so you can edit those easily on site.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. And I saw something in the chat earlier, not in the Q&A box, but do want to touch on it. An inspector asking, if you start an inspection on the V10 app, do you have to finish that on the V10 app web editor?
So you don't have to finish on the web editor, but you do have to finish it in V10. We don't have a way to transfer data between them because, again, they're just completely different systems that work completely differently. But again, because we have 40% of inspections moving through V10, I'm very confident that if you start, you can finish it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Megan. I have a feeling that, James, this one is going to be for you again. I have Wayne asking, how do we set to report offline with an iPad during the inspection? I get red alert errors with pictures during inspections. Is this a good indicator I should be reporting offline?
I'm trying to find that question. I can't find it at the moment. Can you read it again?
Yes, of course. So I think the first part of it is, which I think you'll be able to answer, is how do we set to report offline with an iPad during the inspection?
Offline. I don't understand the question, but if your iPad has cell service, then I would just put it in airplane mode. I don't know if that answers the question, but.
And James, just so I can understand how you do this, do you do that before you start the inspection, during the inspection? Because I think maybe what the question is saying here, that they're trying to turn like on airplane mode or turn off their Wi-Fi connection during the inspection. So do you have any, like, at what point do you do that? Do you turn it on airplane mode?
Again, so mine's not on. I don't like mine now. Okay, so mine's on Wi-Fi right now because it's in my home office. So I download it now, and once I leave the home, it automatically goes into offline because I don't have Wi-Fi abilities.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you so much for answering that. Wayne, if that didn't answer your question, feel free to write in and clarify. Let's see, what else do we have? Let's see. From Eli, we have, when you do the reorder, does it only reorder the deficiency section? We like our comments and limitations in a certain order.
Yes, so that only will reorder the deficiencies. We don't reorder your informational or limitations comments because we know you might have those in a specific order.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, let's see from Zach. I'm wondering if add-on services can be selected from a pre-configured list instead of having to create the same add-on service under each service category. For example, I offer well and septic inspections and want to add them as add-ons to the main package I offer. I want to be able to update the add-on in the pre-built list only once instead of having to go into each service package and update the same add-on in all of them. Thanks so much. I think that, to me, sounds like a feature request opposed to a question, but Megan, do you have anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I don't want to blow up his spot, but in future quarters, our PM Josh is actually looking at the services and fees list. And one of the things he's looking at is how we can create a single like defect or single add-on, that you can update across it. So I think he'll be bringing more information about this in the future. So really excited about that, but sorry, Josh, if I'm ruining your news.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Megan and Zach. It sounds like you are in luck. Wonderful. All right, let's see. What else we have? I'm a new operations manager, so I'm just learning this system. Is there a newbie webinar or archived video to better learn the system, particularly data-related options? So for that, I'll answer this in two parts. Number one, we do have our new inspector webinars that our customer success team puts on. If you write into the chat bubble, they'll be able to get you into those new inspector webinars and find you. They have a series of a couple of them, so they'll be able to help you find which webinar can serve you best there. The other thing I'm excited to announce is if you are in Spectora HQ, if not, you should join it. But if you're in Spectora HQ, we are launching a mentor group soon with one of the wonderful operations managers in our community who will be giving a ton of advice on this. So highly recommend joining Spectora HQ and keeping an eye out for that when it launches in the coming weeks, because you'll be able to get personalized feedback and great advice from operations managers who have been using Spectora for a long time. So that's wonderful. Have another one here from Brian. Has the issue of the slow sync from the new app to the web editor been resolved? I often have issues where the editor says it's fully synced, but it is not. I have to do a full sync.
Alex, do you actually want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So we have heard a few issues related to that. And this has been one of our priorities, as Megan said, with the new web editor version. Although we do have a ton of visual changes, mostly related to UX, we also did a ton of work in the background. So we were made aware of such issues of the web editor being too slow to sync. And this is one of the issues we try to focus on this new version. So our expectation is that the new beta solves this issue for you. And we are closely monitoring it. And yeah, just be sure to reach out to our CS team and take a look into the new version. We would love to hear back from you. And yeah, please, any issues, just let us know. Feel free to reach out. We are always here to help and improve your experience.
Great. Thank you so much for answering that, Alex. I appreciate it. I have one from Jeff. So I just jumped over to Spectora from my previous report writing software. Welcome, Jeff. And have already spent many hours tailoring my templates, etc. Is there a way to know clearly what changes may or may not happen when moving over to V10? The way I'm reading this, Jeff is asking about his template.
Yeah, of course. So your template should look exactly the same, basically. V10, we say it's the same app you know and love, just with a refreshed experience. So it has the same flow, the same experience with just a few feature tweaks, but basically your template should work exactly the same. We wouldn't change anything there. So it shouldn't be something where you have to make additional tweaks. I know how long it takes to work on a template, so I want to make sure that you just get to easily make that transition.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Megan. From Amanda, I have, can we have a Spectora webinar for managers of scheduling teams? I am the person who plans these webinars, so I will definitely add that to my list. Amanda, if you want to email me, olivia@spectora.com, and let me know anything you really want to see out of that. I'm always taking ideas. Thank you so much. Great. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Eli, I have multiple inspectors. Will switching to the default V10 affect them with the switch?
Yes, so if you did the default V10, it would be a company-wide setting, but if you go to settings team, you can go through and actually default a single inspector. Let's say you're doing a team inspection where you're working with another person who's not defaulting to V10. What it would do is it just default to the old app. If anytime you have an inspector that's on V10 and not in V10, we just default it back to legacy to make sure that they have access to it and you have access to it. But it is something you can do individually or even per inspection. When you hit the new inspection, plus new inspection, there's a checkbox on the bottom that says build this in V10 or make this inspection V10 at the very end of the scheduling sheet. And then also we can send instructions for this, but if you have an inspection that you want to move over from the online scheduler, there is a convert in the top right corner under more options. There is a convert to V10 button, so you can actually move that as well. So either way, you can definitely try it without moving over your whole team.
Well, thank you, Megan. From Derek, I have someone saying that I don't use autosync because it bogs down the app while inspecting. Is there any work being done on that, or is it strictly a self-service issue? Any thoughts on that either? Probably Megan.
Yeah, of course. So for autosync, it is something, if you have poor service, we do this something, I think it's called never ending. Basically, it means that when you're syncing, if you have poor service, every time the app tries and fails, it waits longer before it tries again. So basically, as it goes on, it should slow down, but it can definitely still be something that can put some stress on your application. I would recommend, if it's something that's bogging you down, I would recommend not using it if you're not in great service. But we are always looking at ways that we can improve sync, things like how we batch things. Like when we talk about batching, it says how many like changes and photos and stuff we're trying to send at once. So we're always looking at ways to improve that, and we're continually evaluating it. But my big recommendation would be, if it's something that's an issue for you, I'd say just continue on with normal sync. You can even sync incrementally, but it's not something I'd recommend if it's going to cause issues for your team.
Great answer. And again, Derek, I would just recommend, like, if that could be an issue, also based on the age of your device, so it's not like purely self-service. But yeah, Megan answered that very well, so thank you. I am just seeing from Jeff another question about, will template changes be made if I switch over to V10? Your template will stay exactly the same. I want to reiterate that point as much as we can. Like, this isn't any huge changes. This is really just ensuring that our report writing tools are as usable as they can be, have the best experience they can have, and are built on technology that we can continue to build on into the future. So it's not like a big change. It's not going to change anyone's templates if you decide to give that a try. Wonderful. Let's see. From Gregory, it would be nice if you could add arrows to pictures or edit arrow colors from the inspection preview. Anything?
Yeah, definitely. So we have plans to improve the preview edit in the future. So including things like editing photos, annotating photos, all that great stuff. So again, it's not something that we have a specific timeline for, but that is ultimately the plans of how we can let you edit more from that view.
Ryan asking, is the new web editor active now? Because I'm not seeing it on my end on V10. So Ryan, the answer for that is you will have to join the beta for the new V10 web editor. So what you can do after this webinar, or now while you're on this webinar, if you want, is go to our chat bubble, so our customer support from either our website or from your Spectora app, and write in and just tell them you would like to join the beta for the new V10 web editor. Wonderful. I have Eli asking, how do we get the clicked comments to move to the top auto? I'm not sure if I'm quite understanding that question.
That's the check defects thing. It automatically happens as long as you're on V10. It's not an option on Legacy, but it should happen on V10 for both the web editor and the app.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Megan. All right, we can take just a couple more. Let's see what I'm hearing. JJ, can pics be shared between inspectors? JJ, I think you might have to elaborate a little bit on what you mean there, and where you're wanting pictures to be shared. But Megan, is that something you know what JJ's asking here?
So when you sync, your photos do move between inspectors. It's not something that we have like a Dropbox where if it's not in a report, we can get it. Like you can, if you have iPhone or whatever, you can use texting or AirDrop or anything like that. But when you do sync your report, everything goes to the web and then the other inspector's app so they can see your photos and vice versa.
Well, thanks, Megan. I'm glad you understood that better than I did. This is why we love you so much. Anonymous attendee asking, is there a way to select more than one image? Is there a way to select more than one image comment at a time to delete or open to edit?
So not right now. We do again want to look at more options. One of our biggest things that we're looking at now that we have this basic version of the web editor out is how we can speed things along. Same with the mobile app, how we can speed along report writing and make it better. So mass actions, I think, are a huge part of that, basically just allowing you to take those actions together. So not right now, but if you want to give a little bit more detail on what you're looking for to the chat, they can definitely send that into the user requests area.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan. From Danvir, we have, how can I to duplicate and move the comments in the mobile app?
So we don't have a move comment in the mobile app. That's only on the web. That is something, if you're needing it again, I think that'd be an excellent request. But you can duplicate any comment. I'm trying to remember, I think it's just when you see the comment, there is a copy button on the mobile app. I'll actually have to, it's just, I don't know how to describe it, but when you click into the item on the app, there's a list of options with like camera and everything, and there is a duplicate option in there. For sections and items, if you drag to the right, a duplicate pops up as well there.
Well, thank you so much, Megan. All right, with that, I unfortunately think that is as many questions as we are able to answer today in the time that we have. But thank you everyone so much for coming. If we didn't answer your question, again, please write into the chat bubble. Anyone have any last words before we wrap up? Great. All right. Thank you so much everyone for coming. I really appreciate you all being here, and we will see you at the next webinar.